Hi, everybody. It's Jessica Stone at Stansberry Research, and I'm joined now by Howard Lee, the CEO of SoRSE, which is in the cannabis space, and also by cannabis capitalist editor Tom Carroll, our very own expert on the space. And we want to begin the conversation by talking about the state of play in legalization of cannabis, first in the states, and then secondly, Howard, on the federal level.
Let's just talk about state deregulation or state legalization. And, now over $10 billion last year has been in legalized sales. I think it's just a freight train that's not going to stop. And with the COVID crisis, I think you're going to see many, many, many more states try to legalize more quickly. I think the federal government is obviously a little bit of in flux. But if Joseph Biden decides to take the right step, I think it'll force Donald Trump's hand to potentially make things legal much faster. I think someone's going to drop the mic on federal legalization.
Yes, I totally agree with what Howard said. And in our issue last month, we talked about how COVID has really become this accelerant, not only for cannabis, but for a number of different industries, from states that need tax revenues to, purely healthcare as being able to test cannabis as a source for, the next therapy for this pandemic or others. We just can't do that today. I mean, healthcare is our number one asset. It's election year, remember? I mean, Trump needs big wins, right? Biden's gaining on him in the polls. He needs something that could, really shake the trees and make him just look like the biggest and the best, next candidate ever, and creating an accelerant that is moving cannabis legislation meaningfully faster than it has in the past.
Does it matter to investors what kind of taxes the states pass and ultimately the feds pass?
I think at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. What matters is this is a market that's, estimated to be $50 billion right now, today, that needs to be taxed in some way, shape, or form to drive more revenues, both to the state legislatures as well as to the federal government. And right now, the vast majority of it is untaxed. So Howard, I'd be interested in your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, so I think the interesting dynamic about taxing is you have to keep it simple. Some states are trying to tax it by milligram, by bud, by all these different types of ways. And that just lets bad actors come in. And what you really want to do is just keep it really simple. Excise tax, sales tax.
You're in a sort of derivative, what I would call kind of a derivative space. Can you talk a little bit about what SoRSE does and whether that's going to be regulated any differently, or what the opportunities might be, not just in the leaf or the bud itself, but in things either around the supply chain or further down the line of cannabis?
It's not about the bud. In the long run, people aren't going to consume cannabis, THC and CBD by smoking it, right? They're going to drink it. They're going to have an edible in the market, like a vitamin or something like that. And so as you see this market grow, 80% of the market is not even tapped yet by the beverage market or by the edible market or the nutraceutical market. And that's where the big growth is going to happen. We actually work with FDA approved, GMP certified, kosher certified facilities. Yeah. And if you want to be in the food
chain. How about halal? Do you have halal, Howard?
Not yet. No. But they're kosher certified, and it has to be available as an ingredient to the food chain and food supply. So we have over 40 customers right now testing different products, different beverages, for when the federal government or the FDA legalizes CBD. So we have a lot of people looking at this space, and we're trying to make sure that our products meet that standard. What we do is a platform versus just one specific recipe. So if you had different pH levels of your recipe, if you had different taste profiles you want with your recipe, we don't have to change our platform. It's a minor tweak to it versus a whole nother recipe where other emulsified companies will have to change their entire recipe to make a profile.
You're trying to be the supplier to anybody who puts it into any food product. Is that basically
That's
you
correct.
want to be the flour mill of the bread factory?
That's right. We're trying to be a food company going into the cannabis space.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of food technology people who wouldn't fit into the normal THC CBD side of it.
We're talking to investors, right, who want to think about, okay, how can I be ahead of the supply chain or the production or the legalization? Are there proprietary technologies that you use that, you know, that would be made just specifically for your processes that are also places to invest?
I'll tease you on this one. We're just not in the THC and CBD space. We're in other spaces in the food space that aren't yet using this technology, and that's just as exciting.
Your company is you know, a great example of how, you know, you've got a new market that, you know, is in cannabis, and, you know, everybody kind of thinks, you know, oh, cannabis market legalization, we're going to be, you know, smoking pot. But, you know, out of the woodwork come organizations like yours, right? And how many other tens of hundreds of companies are going to be created, you know, and investable because of this industry moving from a federally illegal substance to a legal one. I mean, I think it's amazing for the country and for business as a whole.
So Thomas, as you were talking about innovation, here's an interesting, completely not related to us in our space, but people want to know where their food comes from. People want to know where their products come from. And seed to sale software is an interesting space for investors to look at, right? The whole idea that I can track something from a seed to actually sitting on the grocery store shelf is potentially an enormous market long-term, right? And it's going to be, with the advent of RFID tags and all of these things in the food supply chain, you're going to see really interesting, innovative people working in that space. It's just starting. They're just in the cannabis space, but I can see that technology jumping over to normal food delivery, understanding where my products come from, and being able to disclose that to consumers is going to be an important.
And I bet it'll be put on the blockchain too.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. You're right. You're jumping. You're putting all that innovation.
I'm trying. You know.
That's right. That's right.
Trying to help people stay ahead. Howard Lee, the CEO of SoRSE, and Tom Carroll, our editor of Cannabis Capitalist. And if you would like to see much more content just like this, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for watching.